Peace be upon you all, and the mercy of God and his blessings. O God, bless Muhammad and his household, just as you have blessed Abraham and his household. In the name of God, the all-merciful, the all-compassionate. O Lord, we ask you for health, for forgiveness, for soundness in faith, for security in the world, and for the safety of our family and our communities. O the best of givers, set right for us our affairs, guide us to the ways of peace, take us from darkness towards light, and in events of dispute, show us the right path. Verily you guide whomsoever you will. O Lord, include us among those who invite your obedience. Lead us to your approved path and give us the good of this world and the world to come. O Lord, let us uphold that which you make known to us of the truth, and let us be cognizant of that from which we fall short. Fill the gap amongst us created by confusion. Ease for us our difficulties. Remove from us our shackles. Let our efforts reap success. Help us fulfill our promises. O Lord, hear our request and give us beyond our expectations. Verily you are more loving than any who loves. You are ever at hand to fulfill the desires of those who rely upon you. O God, bless Muhammad and his household. Amen.
Thank you very much for that, Sister Ishrit. So as you may already know, and if you don't know, I'm Zain. I'm the co-chairman of the newly elected SABS, Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society Youth Committee. Along with my co-chair Hajra, who unfortunately could not make it, and arguably the SABS's most handsome member, as my mum says. Our main objective for this new re-energised youth committee is to engage with yourselves, friends and family of SABS, to sort of carry forward and emulate what has already been done, and to do what we can in a more energised matter. Carry forward what our elders, our respected elders like Uncle Azhar, Uncle Shabir, Syed, Sister Ishrit, have already done and continue to do so. And they have done that for years, and hopefully in the future we can carry that forward and take the strain off of them. So if you see any of us, we're in these really nice blue ties, do pull us for a chat. We do have some of the sisters of the youth committee situated around the room, so do pull us for a chat, and hopefully this isn't the last time we ever see you, because we want to be working with the Friends of SABS. So without further ado, I'd like to invite the Master of Ceremonies, Amid.
I thought I was the most handsome member of the team as well, but you've stolen my light now. Thank you. Honoured guests, distinguished speakers, what a pleasure it is for me to see so many of you friends of the Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society present here tonight. It moves our heart. It's been far too long. It's been before the pandemic we've managed to come together like this. When the Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society was first formed, little did we know that the journey would take us thus far. And we're not at the end of the road just yet. We're still work in progress, because there's a lot of work to do. And what a beautiful venue that's been chosen to host tonight's Eid dinner. The theme for tonight I'll come on to in a minute, which is friendship. And I'm speaking a little bit quicker because we're unfortunately losing the Rabbi and Ephraim to another event this evening, and so we wanted to make them most welcome in the course of the early part of this evening. You've come from far afield, I can see that. Not just in distance, but through the years on the journey with SABS. And we've come a long, long way. Those of you that have come through from Edinburgh, I must especially thank, because thank you for not going to the Rod Stewart concert instead. Because I was thinking, man, that man's playing at the, Frank, the former Lord Provost, is at the Edinburgh Castle, yeah. I thought we were going to lose out on that one, but thankfully, I'm sure a lot of you like Rod Stewart, but I can almost promise you that the event here tonight is going to be as stimulating, as rewarding and uplifting than anything Rod could sing for you. We have a welcome from the Glasgow City Council. Unfortunately, the Lord Provost and Lord Lieutenant of Glasgow, Jacqueline McLaren, sent her apologies. However, we have Ballie Rashid Hussain, who will offer his welcome to Glasgow to all of you. So I would invite Ballie Rashid Hussain to come to the stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, on behalf of the Lord Provost and people of Glasgow, it's a privilege and honour to join you for this special dinner to mark Eid al-Adha. Glasgow is proud to be a firm friend of the Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society, an organisation committed to promoting friendship, tolerance and mutual understanding among those of faith and no faith across our country. This Eid dinner is a key event in your calendar designed to build on that friendship and fellowship. We're gathered here in the magnificent Trades House where the skills of our forefathers are on display to admire. As we all know, Glasgow has a long and proud history of craftsmanship. Artisans helped build the city, a city famed for its architecture, its friendliness, hospitality and sense of fun. So it's with this great pride I join you this evening. It's our citizens who built this city, and it's our citizens of all faiths and cultures, from near and far, who make Glasgow the fantastic place we recognise. A place of beauty, energy and vision, a place of contradictions and contrasts, and above all, a place where people know a kind word, a good deed, a good laugh go a long way. And friends, it's in that spirit of decency and friendship we gather this evening, as men and women with a pride in our city and a passion for helping our citizens. A city with a unique identity, a multicultural and inclusive city, with a huge heart that values everyone's worth. And that chimes with the values I know people of Muslim faith cherish. What better way to come together than to feast together, to mark your special, or our special religious festival. More than ever, we live in harmony and hope to recognise the power of tolerance, respect and mutual understanding. It will be the determination of good men and women, and especially our young people, who reject division, that will allow us to build a better world for all humanity. Friends, this evening, a firm foundation to build on. Thank you.
Such kind words, Ballie Rashid, very appreciated by all of us here at SABS, and I'm sure by everyone in attendance as well. Glasgow is, after all, a very welcoming city, as you're all very much aware. Our weather isn't brilliant, and tonight's a sample of that, but we are a very warm and friendly city, and we at SABS seek to give that warmth and that friendship out to people, and that's why we actually decided that tonight would be one of those friendship evenings where we bond together and get to know one another, because after all, that's the journey we're on. And in fact, we hold fast to the motto, we are either brothers in faith or equal in humanity. That means that our blessed Imam from the 7th century, who was rightly guided, was explaining to us that the service of humanity means everything. It is not just something, it is everything. And that's why we take a great deal of pride in seeing so many of our friends gathered today. And we're gathered at the Trades House, where we are now going to hear from the Deacon Convener himself. he has done a vast amount of charitable work and civic work through this building. He is a tremendous friend of the Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society, and we're very proud to have him explain to you some of the things that go on at this Trades House. Please welcome the Deacon Convener, Mr. Rashid.
Collector of the House, ex-Deacon Conveners, Lord Lion, King of Arms, distinguished civic guests, distinguished members of the clergy, deacons and members of the Incorporated Trades of Glasgow, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Trades House of Glasgow, where tonight we are celebrating the Feast of Sacrifice of Eid al-Adha, which coincides with the final rites of the annual pilgrimage to Mecca and the sacrifice of the Prophet Abraham. It is a joyous occasion to be enjoyed by all members of our united community tonight. Where we stand tonight, the Trades Hall is the second oldest building in Glasgow, still being used for its original purpose, the first being Glasgow Cathedral. And as you look round, you can see the history. We have 14 incorporated crafts. The mottos and crests are there in the ceiling, and we have representatives of many of our crafts here tonight who will be more than happy to discuss our history, our aims and our objectives. Today we are principally one of benevolence, and between our own funds and those of the crafts, and we would distribute up to £1 million in profits. In benevolence from the various investments and donations we receive. This hall, over the centuries, has celebrated many memorable occasions, and only last month we welcomed the Lord Mayor of London and representatives of over 100 guildries and other London institutions to the Trades Hall and the City Chambers, a first for this city. And it was a tremendous success, firmly enhancing our reputation as a welcoming city. And the culmination of that visit was a service at Glasgow Cathedral. This is another very special occasion tonight, which, in adding to the history of our hall, and as we host the gathering, representing so many faiths and people from different walks of life. It demonstrates our continued aim of welcoming everyone into our organisation, ably demonstrating the pursuit of diversity and inclusion, which to the House represents two interconnected concepts. Diversity is a representation of the people who make up an organisation, and inclusion is about how well those contributions, presence and perspectives of different groups are valued and integrated into our organisation. It demonstrates that by having a range of people with various racial, ethnic and cultural backgrounds, embracing different lifestyles, experiences and interests, will lead us forward in a more rewarding path of life. In truth, we have more that unites us than divides us. Poverty and need have no barriers. Yesterday, we saw that perfect example of diversity and inclusion, and I was privileged to attend the National Service of Thanksgiving and Dedication. Members of many faiths, including their own Chief Imam, Dr. Said Razawi, the Director of the Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society, took part in the blessing and the greetings from representatives of faith and belief communities. The Trades House of Glasgow greatly treasures the friendship and bond that exists between ourselves and SABS. In its early years, when struggling to find its rightful place within the community, one of my predecessors, Bishop Idris Jones, who is here tonight, when Deacon Convener embraced SABS and welcomed them into the Trades House. Successive Deacon Conveners have strengthened those links, and I'm proud to say that in my first term of office, I was privileged to sign an accord with SABS. His chairman is here tonight with Shabir, which formally strengthened our bond, and tonight I would present him with a copy of that accord signifying that bond.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, as we celebrate this special occasion, it brings us together to recognise our place in the community, a chance to renew and strengthen our friendships, an opportunity to gain new friendships with the common aim to serve our wide and diverse community. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, may I thank you for your support tonight, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this memorable night. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deacon Convener, for that very warm welcome and also some explanation of the fantastic work that goes. This is not just a fantastic looking building. Looks can be deceptive. This houses a tremendous amount of work and service to charitable causes. Part of the Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society's ethos is built on the basic premise to serve. Many, many traditions, civilizations throughout history have had that underlying. I follow martial art, and I follow samurai traditions, a practice, and the actual word samurai comes from the Japanese to serve. So whilst you may know them as marauders with long swords, they actually sought to serve. And that's what we're doing here. We're seeking to serve the communities that we engage with, along with your help. Our next speaker is someone who works at a local, national and international level with the gusto and energy that is unsurpassed. He engages right throughout and takes the banner that SABS seeks to carry right wherever he goes. Cross faiths, politics, communities, charities, everywhere he goes, he takes the SABS banner with him. He is the chief Imam of SABS. We know him as Maulana Dr. Said Ali Razavi. Please welcome.
In the name of God, the lovingly merciful, the lovingly compassionate. Graces, Excellencies, Lords, ladies and gentlemen, I am extremely humbled that you've given us an opportunity to serve you. And though this is something very small, and you deserve much more, but it really warms my heart that we have this diversity in this room tonight. If I can say that it's an opportunity for us to serve Scotland. And this is what Scotland symbolises. This tapestry of diversity, colours, races, creeds, people from across sectors, from our charitable sectors to our NHS, to our football professionals, to our politicians, to our trades, faith leaders, and every other sector that I failed to mention. I think there are over 80 organisations and over 160 people. But if I may say, I know the rabbi has left and he was fasting. After 23 hours of fasting, he said, look, I have to come to this, even if it's for 10 minutes. And he came for 45 minutes. But again, after 23 hours, it becomes very difficult. But that's commitment. And that's what Scotland is. People who are committed to coming together to make a difference. And we saw this during COVID-19 when people across faiths, across sectors, were there to help each other. We had people helping in terms of buying food for those people who couldn't eat, or for NHS staff who were overworked. We found faiths coming together, developing their friendships further, providing shelter for those people who are homeless. we saw our communities house 100% of Afghan refugees. And we as a community, as a country, I believe 60% odd, were actually willing to bring in refugees. And I know Sabir is sitting somewhere over here. He was the one who gave me the statistics of it. As you know, and as you heard the Archbishop's speech in the House of Lords, well, it was Sabir who wrote that speech. So these are committed people who are bringing and helping and providing and helping their neighbours. So with that, it's an honour for me, and it's an honour for my community. It's, I guess, something which is, in fact, there's two other people I'd like to mention. I know that we have our Sunni community who are here. And in Scotland, we believe in dialogue. And I believe this is probably the only community in all of Europe who are working towards harmoniously living together and, in fact, signing an accord. And hopefully in the next 12 months or so, you will see a Sunni-Shia accord being signed as well. And hopefully this begins. Hopefully this begins an example for other people to follow. As you're seeing wars and fighting going on across the world, I'm hoping that Scotland can lead that example. The second thing I'd like to say here is that if you look at the cutlery, you'll see that all of this is biodegradable. We learned something from COP26, and though I was a bit upset 2 days ago thinking, are we going to eat from biodegradable cutlery? But I was convinced very quickly that it's the right thing to do. And we as a country, as you know, are working very well when it comes to the environment. So rest assured, everything that's here is biodegradable, and we are not contributing to damaging the ecology and the environment. So with that, I'm going to conclude, but again, to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and to support us and to contribute really to this tapestry which is Scotland. And yes, it's been difficult post-Brexit, post-COVID-19. I've experienced for the first time in my life Islamophobia a year ago. However, together we can overcome this. It isn't just for one community. We are seeing spikes across Europe in terms of anti-Semitism, xenophobia. But at least in Scotland, we are people who are willing to work together to overcome this tide. And what makes me extremely happy, in fact, is the friendships that have developed over these years. The personal friendships that we have, which have influenced, in fact, not just policy, but have influenced the tide of public perception. And as we saw yesterday, in fact, when the Archbishop and the Moderator and the Primus and myself, we were standing outside and we took a nice selfie. And after posting it somewhere, somebody commented to say, "It's finally good to see faith leaders smile." So here we are together smiling. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your smiles and the very dedicated work that you do. I have a confession to make now. And I know that the Archbishop's here, so if he's ready to help me out with this one. It's my wife's birthday tonight. Oh, yeah, exactly. And she said, "I thought we were going out for a romantic dinner for two." And I said, "No, it's 200, I said. She hasn't been able to make it through, however. She's gone out with some other relatives. And I have to probably spend the rest of the year making it up to her, which may include a visit to Celtic Park, which is not healthy for me. I'm a Govan boy, remember? But there we go, that's the sacrifices and all the compromises that we make in life. Our next speaker tonight is the Moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland. I first met this lady a few years ago. I hope she remembers me because I gave a talk on climate change. It's probably something that's very dear to both of our hearts. And I got one very, very good compliment from someone, and it was our beloved Archbishop Mario Conti, who was seated very far forward in the audience that day, God rest his soul. When I came off the stage, he said to me, I actually understand what climate change is now. As someone who studied climatology and meteorology as a professional pilot, we had to study the environment. And what we're doing to this environment is actually quite shocking. It is not a metaphor that we're burning this planet. It is a fact. And I implore our religious leaders that whenever they're giving a talk to their communities, and whoever may listen, that they include a section on climate crises, because it's incumbent upon all of us to do something and not rely on government, bodies or anyone else. Everyone has a role to play. However little that may seem, it is an important role. And that was the message that day, Moderator. The Moderator has just recently been appointed Moderator, and I think she spent at least 7 years with Christian Aid. 2016 was when you joined Christian Aid. Her greatest change, however, she tells me, is that she's now a grandmother. And that's changed her perspective. That's interesting, because I can share with that, because I am also a grandfather. And it's the most beautiful thing, Moderator, to see your child with their child. It's God's mighty grace, I tell you. Humbles the heart. Let's welcome the Moderator, the Right Reverend Sally Foster-Fulton.
Good evening. Radical hospitality and wide open welcome is what is happening here tonight. And so thank you. Thank you so much for your hospitality, for your welcome, and for bringing us all together, because this is where we need to be. Being here tonight has reminded me of a story, and it's actually from the Mishnah, so it's a story about our sacred stories. And in this story, when God creates the world, God decides that the light needs to be put in a safe place, so the divine light is put in this beautiful glass vase. But the divine light is too powerful to be contained, and so that vase explodes. And divine sparks go into absolutely everything. Into the trees, into the water, into the people, into the animals, everywhere. And in the story, it says that it is our role to free those divine sparks. And so every time we listen to someone who needs us to, we free a spark. If we pick up a hammer and we help build a home, we free the spark. Tonight I just see sparks being freed all over this room. So thank you for everything you do, for every time you listen, for every time you heal, for every time you share yourself with others. So to my sisters and brothers who are leaders in their faith, thank you for sharing with us. For members of the NHS who are here with us tonight, thank you for sharing yourself with us. For our folk from the trades, thank you for sharing yourselves with us. For every single person here, and for our politicians, thank you for sharing yourselves with us. Yesterday, we came together at a service of thanksgiving. And it was one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen. To be able to be there and listen to blessings from my sisters and brothers in one place together. It's what we need to be doing always, always. Of course we've got stuff that divides us. Welcome to the human race. But we have so much more that brings us together. And as my wonderful friend said, we have the world in common. We have the world in common. So let's get out there and make it a better place. Thank you, and I cannot wait to just listen. Thanks.
Thank you for those very kind words, Moderator, and what a wonderful phrase. We have a world in common. Let's get out there. Now, don't forget these words now. You're all here and you'll be questioned on your way out if you took on board what was said, because you're not just sit there and just nod your head in agreement. We're not politicians after all. I'm just kidding. My eye caught a politician. I had to say something there for a second. Our next speaker tonight is the Archbishop for the Metropolitan, St Andrew and Edinburgh. He is also a very dear friend of the Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society. It's always an absolute pleasure to meet up with him, because he's always got that charming smile and sophistication about him. I'm so jealous and envious of him. There's something about this person that exudes confidence and draws you in. However, that's not the greatest quality he possesses. He actually set up where the moderator was, someone was talking about an accord, and it was the moderator before you who, by coincidence, is actually always present. Dr. Greenshields. And that was to bring the Christian communities together. And you know what the two of them said? We are together. We are, however, distinctive. And we are friends on a journey together. I thought that was beautiful. And our Malana was saying about the Sunni and the Shia. Why should there be a divide? We're worshipping the same God. Why should there be a divide to the followers of Jesus Christ? However they inserted, we can still be distinctive. I thought that was a great charm there. And long may that type of work continue, Your Grace. Let's welcome, in fact, the Most Reverend Cushley.
Trades Convener, distinguished guests, dear friends, it's an honour, finally, to make it here. This occasion I've been invited often and I've never been able to come, and it's simply been because of diary pressure. And so I'm very pleased, finally, to be able to make it. It's a great pleasure, it really is. It's lovely to hear you talking about friendship. As you know, last year we signed this declaration of friendship between the Church of Scotland and the Catholic Church in Scotland, and that is not nothing. We are aware of that. We are all very well aware of that. And I'm really gratified to hear that it sounds like something very similar may be happening between our Shia and our Sunni brothers and sisters. And I look forward to seeing that come to fruition. What a wonderful initiative. I'm delighted to see that. I think it would be fair to say that last week we also had a meeting, the bishops, the Catholic bishops, and the bishops of the Scottish Episcopal Church, and we too are going to look into coming to some kind of declaration or accord or something. So we're going to have some talks about talks. It sounds terribly cautious, but I think it's simply a question of sitting down with some coffee and seeing where the discussion goes. But I'm very excited about that already, and we'll be doing that soon. In the Catholic Church, we have, during the week, there are 2 cycles of readings for Mass that go around. So that's 2 years where we happen to listen to different readings, but on different days, different times, different weeks. And today, I opened the lectionary when I was saying a wee quiet Mass. And there before me is the story of Abraham and Isaac. You couldn't make this up. It's a total coincidence that that is what people of my faith are reading all over the world today. And it's one of the most beautiful stories in the sacred scriptures of Abraham having his hand stayed by God when he is asked to take the life of his son. And instead, God says, no, that's not what I'm asking from you. I'm actually testing you to see if you have faith. And it's something that we share with our Jewish brothers and sisters. It's something that we share with our Muslim brothers and sisters too. And to be able to join you finally for this special occasion, for one of the most beautiful and important moments of faith and love and friendship, is very special indeed. So, without further ado, because I think you've got 1 or 2 other people lined up, I shall wind it up and say congratulations, many thanks for the kind invitation, and have a lovely feast. God bless you all. Thank you.
I did tell you there was a great warmth in His grace that exudes whenever He speaks. You mentioned friendship, and a lot of the bonds that we have created, our senior team have created over the last decade and more, are based on that friendship, but really important work that we'll carry forward. It was Cicero who said that when you have friendship, it improves happiness and abates misery. How cool is that? It actually doubles your joy and divides your grief. I'll be having some of that. And that was over 2,000 years ago, Your Grace. But I think we should listen to those words and implement them today. Because when we share, and we can divide that grief lest we have any, or we could refer to it as a challenge and make the challenge more palatable. And when there are those joyous moments, share them with one another. To me, that's the coolest thing ever. As His Grace mentioned, we have a couple of speakers still to speak. And our next speaker is the Primus himself of the Episcopal Church. He's also the Bishop of the United Diocese of Moray, Ross and Caithness. Thank you very much. I like to work from my memory. There's something not quite right about me. Why can't I just use notes? I just want to read it off my mind. I just look at people and I think, I recognise you, this is who you are. You live in a very beautiful home, Primus. It's St. John's. I think it's the early 1800s. Absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. The Primus' greatest love, however, is not just his home and the beautiful surroundings that he comes from, but he just loves spending time with good people. And I hope the table we've given you tonight has delivered that for you, Primus.
I'll tell you later.
please welcome the Most Reverend Mark Strange.
The theme for tonight is friendship, and I want to reflect very briefly, because it's a while since we've been gathered together, because we haven't been able to gather together. But what I want to reflect on is what has changed in those few years when we weren't able to eat together in this way. I'm not a church leader in the same place I was prior to the lockdowns, prior to the work we had to do during the pandemic. And the reason for that is, thanks to some people in this room, is that people of faith were brought together weekly, monthly, to actually talk through what effect COVID was having upon people of faith and what people of faith could do to help those who were struggling with COVID. And the process meant that almost weekly I was in the company of people who, prior to that moment, had simply been those I turned up to when something formal was happening. And I found myself slowly but surely beginning to understand their senses of humour. That makes life so much easier. Beginning to understand the things that made them tick. Beginning to understand the things that made them angry. Beginning to understand the things that they loved. And do you know what that is? That's real friendship. So over this last week, particularly yesterday, and at the rehearsal for the event on Monday, splendid as everything has been, and we thank the Lord Lion and others for that work. The joy of turning up at St Giles and not to meet with a bunch of people from other faiths and from my own faith who I just happened to be in the room with. I actually met with friends. And we hugged and we shook hands and we bowed to each other. We did all those formal things and informal things that we have to do. And it was truly wonderful. And even though Saeed almost took my thunder by the mention of the photograph, if you haven't seen it, and I know that former moderator Derek Browning has, because he made some comment about my silly face. I know my cousin's seen it, because her one comment on Facebook was, "Don't grow up, cousin," and I don't worry, I won't. But what you have there is a photograph of 4 friends grinning at the camera. And I put up on Facebook last night a whole series of very serious statements about how honoured I'd felt and how honourable it was and how dignified everything had been. And I've had lots of nice comments, thank you, Primus. Last night I put up that photograph and said, amongst friends at St Giles. In comparison to the very dignified photographs, where about 60 people thought that was nice, my Facebook lit up. Because not only do we think it's important that we are friends, but it's clear that the rest of Scotland thinks it's important that we are friends. And rejoice in the fact that we can grin together, we can work together, but above all, we can share the importance of our faith together. So, never be too serious. Always have a laugh.
Thank you, Primus. We won't take everything too seriously and we'll laugh on our journey together, or at least smile. Yet one more confession to make. It's just whenever I see you, former Lord Provost, it warms me. Because I did a pilgrim walk in Edinburgh some few years ago, and it was during your tenure as Lord Provost. And as a Glaswegian, this is very difficult for me to say, but I fell in love with Edinburgh. I didn't realise there were so many lovely people live in Edinburgh. I've only lived in Glasgow all my life and barely left the place. But honestly, that day, it was just the most beautiful experience. Everyone opened their doors. The pilgrim walk, which took 12 hours, was fantastic. We stopped in football stadiums, churches. People in the street were stopping us and asking, what are we doing? Because we had the Scottish saltire up. We take great pride in being Scottish, incidentally. That's sealed into our hearts. Hence Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society, and not just Ahlul Bayt Society. But yeah, that's my confession. Frank Ross, thank you for all that you did for me that day and even before. And it's lovely to see you yourself and your wife tonight. We have yet another speaker. And this speaker is the Lord Lion, Right Honourable Lord Lion, King of Arms. Oh. It was quite a funny moment in Old Cathcart Church. My granddaughter was in the audience. She's just 4 years of age. And when the Lord Lion came off the stage, she said, "That man talks a lot." She was right, however. Honestly, this man can talk. You're just about to find out. He's absolutely wonderful. He has if I stood here and told you about his awards and achievements, we'd still be here past 10 p.m. He's an amazing person, a wonderful friend to the Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society. Please welcome Dr. Joseph Morgan.
Well, my friends, I'm very delighted to be with you tonight and to extend my own friendship to all of you. Many of you here I know, and many of you I'm going to get to know tonight, which is so important. But I come with a terror to this hall, because I can remember the first dinner that I ever spoke at in this hall. I sat on the top table just about there, and I ran out of butter for my roll. So I said to the waiter, "Could I have more butter?" And he said, "No." So I said, thinking I hadn't been polite enough, I said, "Could I have more butter, please?" And he said, "No." And I did the one thing you must never do in public life. I said, "Do you know who I am?" "I am the Right Honourable." And he looked at me straight in the eye and he said to me, "Do you know who I am?" And I said, "Of course I don't." He said, "I'm the man in charge of the butter." And I really feel tonight I'm in charge of the butter, because that's one of the goodness things in life. And I feel that we're here to actually celebrate the friendship and goodness that Scotland has. I'm also a bit taken aback because in a former existence I used to be a clergyman, and I preached my first sermon in Glasgow in a church called St George's in Maryhill, which they've now converted into housing, but that wasn't my fault, but I went to see it. And I went into the pulpit and I went to deliver my first ever sermon as a theological student. And I got in there and I gave them 47 minutes of every bit of theology that I knew. And I was so proud that I'd got it all out. The next day I went to visit an old lady called Alice McVeigh, and she lived in Sandeman Street in Maryhill. I've never forgotten the visit. She gave me a cup of tea in a china cup. That was the first time I'd ever had a china cup in my hand. Secondly, she said to me, "You know, you're going to make a fine minister, son." And I said, "Why was that?" And I said, "Was I a good visitor?" She said, "Absolutely not." And I said, "Was I a good preacher?" And she said, "Absolutely not." So I said, "Why am I going to make a good minister?" And she eyeballed me with that twinkle that only Glasgow women have in their eyes. And she said to me, "Well, it's like this, son, your head blends well with the wind behind the pulpit." And I feel very much, my friends, that I blend into the evening that we have here. An evening which celebrates something about relationships. It's not really about all the talking, and with great respect to the church leaders in their eminence here, about signing documents. It's about what we do, and it's about how we make it real. And how do we make it real, and how do we make it happen, is through the relationships of friendships that they've had. I'm involved in all sorts of levels of Scottish society, and the only way I get things done is to actually develop the quality of the relationships. I could send umpteen emails to anybody I wanted to send them to, and the bulk of them are ignored. Even if I put, if you ignore this, I will actually lift the phone, and they just ignore it. But if you go and sit down and you share with people and you actually meet them face to face, there's something very special, a kind of spark of fellowship and friendship that brings to life something I believe that's very basically human. Well, most of you will know that I'm a very moderate, temperate character. And I very rarely actually lose my temper. I very rarely get very pointed. And if you believe that, you've got the wrong end of the stick. I'm a devil in disguise when I'm on a mission. But I've learned that it's the quality of how we say, "You are my friend," that makes a difference. And of course, like tonight, we'll sit down and we'll share. And in that sharing, there's some special activity takes place. Many of you will have watched yesterday the Royal Honours of Scotland being presented to the King. The Lord Provost, how many Lord Provosts are here, the active Lord Provosts? Only one, from Aberdeen. Where is he? Here. There you go. Well, you tell the rest of the Lord Provosts of Scotland they got in the way of my Rolls Royce going up the Royal Mile last year. They were marching up in great style, and my Rolls Royce had to slow down as it took me to the castle. By the way, anybody that wants to buy me a Rolls Royce, I'm very comfortable in it, and I enjoyed the trip up to the castle to collect the crown. But the honours of Scotland, and I want to sort of spell a wee bit of this out. The crown, the sceptre and the sword tell us a story. And the telling of stories in terms of people's relationships make it very important to make it happen and to make it understood. For example, we have a king of the people, the King of Scots. Not the land, he doesn't own the land, he's not the kind of overlord, he's the king of the people. And the representation within the crown and the sceptre and the sword are all about that special relationship. And that's what we're here to actually develop tonight, a special relationship of friendship with those in faith and not in faith. It was a wonderful experience for those who were there. But the sword, for me, was a new sword. It was made because the old papal sword, which we treasure greatly, which is really embossed with the most beautiful papal heraldry, so therefore is something I hold very dear. The new sword represented talents of Scotland working at their best. We got 8 people together who made it happen. The pummel stone was from Iona. It was 3.5 billion years old, and it now forms part of that sword. And didn't Catherine Granger do well carrying it? All 8.5 kilograms of it, and she refused to use the actual sling that I had made for it. She held it out there, and she was very proud to take that particular activity on. People have alluded to this. When I designed the ceremony, and when I designed the service with my great friend, Professor David Ferguson, who's a wonderful man of great talent, great patience, and a great patience with me, I have to confess, because I'm one of these people that's driven, and he's one of these people that's considerate and takes his time. When we prepared the service was to be a celebration of the diversity of Scotland. Everybody had to give. Everybody had to give. And that wasn't easy to achieve. And everybody that took part felt very privileged, but there were folk, obviously, we couldn't invite for a variety of reasons. I was sick to the death, and I make no absolutely apologies for saying this. I was fed up of folks saying to me, "Why can my spouse not come?" Well, your spouse couldn't come because we only had 550 seats. And if we had 550 people there that were married, that would have been 1,010 people. And people made and wanted to make a fuss about it. They couldn't live with the idea that we needed to take ourselves above what our personal interests are. And I get very uptight about that. when people are so interested about their position and their personal interest that they cannot see the bigger picture about how we actually celebrate the diversity that Scotland has. And for those who are sitting here who didn't know why their spouses went, well, there you are, straight from my mouth. It's not meant to be offensive, it's not meant to be. And then, of course, there was those who thought they should be there by right. If everybody that thought themselves to be there by right, we would have probably had to hire a building that was 25 times that size. But for me, the wonder, not only of the religious component of the service yesterday, there were 2 youngsters from secondary schools within our state system that accompanied the Duke of Hamilton, who was the hereditary crown bearer and was his escort. One from Clydeview Academy at Gourock, the head girl there, and one, the head boy, from Bowiri High School in Kirkcaldy. Why? From Kirkcaldy? Well, that was the school I went to when I failed my 11 plus. And folk got uptight about these things. But these youngsters, I don't know if you saw them on the television, they did the most amazing task of actually putting over. One of the commentator asked the girl what would happen if the Duke of Hamilton dropped the crown. And she said, well, I would dive and catch it. Very confident, very simple. But it was great to see the young people participate and be absolutely central stage. And the People's Procession that represented the breadth of Scottish society that marched for the castle to meet their king was something that warmed my heart. So see what we did as something that was about diversity, about trying to bring people together and to be something that was to promote friendship not only in this generation but across generations and across different aspects. And then the simple stone of destiny. The climax in the service, in a few sentences, was the presentation of the stone of destiny. A very provocative stone with a great deal of history, but yet it's a simple stone carved from the earth. And for me, if we look at that symbolism, the symbolism of actually the royal honour of what we do here tonight in relationships should be one of simplicity. I don't find a faith at any level that actually says to me, you have to build a cathedral, you have to build a mosque, you have to do this. I see faith in a way which comes very simply from my own perspective, to feed the hungry, to visit those who are actually in prison, to do the things that maybe are not respectable to do. It used to be said Episcopalians, which I'm one, used to be called to be saved by respectability. We can't say that now, I have to say, but it's not about respectability. It's about the simple tasks that make things happen, and that's what tonight has done. It brought about the relationship of fellowship, and that is a true honour for Scotland in bringing us to this people, this place, and to this evening. We are part of Scottish cairn building. The old traditions, when you went on a walk, you would build a cairn so you knew how to get back, but you also knew how to mark it. And each of you tonight bring a stone to the friendship of this occasion to actually make a royal honour to being together and to being in fellowship and promoting what we can do practically as the Scottish people. I came up from a generation of people who experienced racial prejudice. I worked here on the buses as a youngster. At 17 years old, I got a job as a bus conductor in Buchanan bus station. It wasn't as posh then as it was now. It was quite a rough place to be. And we had a Muslim bus driver start with us in the late 70s. And nobody would go on the bus with him as actually to be his conductor. And I volunteered. And what I discovered was a man of kindness, gentleness, insightfulness, of understanding of God, of patience with me, which everybody has to have, and also with a kind of ability to include me. And that was something I've never forgotten, and I've carried that with me. And as I went and worked with him over the years that I was trying to get myself through university, he became more and more acceptable in the organisation that I worked with, and I was able to actually promote him in terms of actually saying how good he was. And let me tell you, I learned something very important about Muslim women. They can cook. I enjoyed every meal I had with them, and he extended to me regularly hospitality. And hospitality is the space in which a stranger can become a friend. Hospitality is the space in which a stranger can become a friend. And that's why I address you all as friends tonight. I make no excuse, following in the great traditions of the Declaration of Arbroath, to be provocative. If you read that document, it's sexualized. We are the people. We are the people. And I don't just say that because I'm a Rangers supporter. I actually say that because I believe passionately that the Scots people have their own destiny in their hands to do practically those things, and we need sometimes to use evocative language in promoting it. My thanks to all of you tonight for the hospitality you've shown, and the Society is a wonderful, wonderful organisation. I went on a peace march with them in Edinburgh and got completely spooked as they followed me with one of these helicopters taking pictures of it, and I wondered what was going on. I thought the Scottish Government were trying to trace me down, and I wasn't having that. But in fact, there was such a joy on that peace march, such a joy to share in the food. And this is actually what the royal honour of tonight is. You are the royal honour of Scotland as you share friendship and fellowship. I've got two little jobs to do, because you'll all be fed up of hearing from me now, and I know that, but I have two wee jobs to do. I want someone to take for the Society one of the copies of yesterday's service, because it has your Imam in it, and also I thought it was something you would like to have in your library. No, you come up. You're much better looking than him. Enjoy it and follow the principles that the Dean of the Chapel Royal and myself tried to entwine through it. And we wish your Society all the well, and particularly the young people of it.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Well, thank you very much for your attention, and I hope I'm getting fed, because I'm getting hungry if you're not. So nice to see you all.
Well, as the Lord Lion intimated, after all, we are the people, and the aroma of the food will be felt wafting its way through the corridor there. So we've only got one more speaker to go, and that's a vote of thanks. However, if the audience would bear with me for just a second, I just want to acknowledge someone, just as the Lord Lion did. This person is a true warrior of the Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society. He is an unsung hero. He does not seek the limelight. He does not stand in front of a podium. He does not stand in any photograph. He doesn't do any of that. He just quietly works away in the background like the true Trojan warrior that he is. And sometimes I just think, well, why don't you step forward into the light? And he refuses. He's just got these wonderful charms. He exudes. He's just very humble. And I would like the audience to acknowledge him, because you've all received emails from him, correspondence from him over the years. His father, God rest his soul, would be extremely proud of him. And if I can just summarise in 2 words what his father would say, or what he would have said to him before he departed, he would say, "Son, serve." And that's what exactly that man does. His name is Hussain. He's standing at the back of the room. Well, it just leaves for me to hand over the podium to my elder brother. You'll all be looking forward to hearing from him, I'm pretty sure. This man's dedication is only equalled to Uzzah himself. The pair of them, the three amigos, they're absolutely relentless. They never stop. I sometimes wonder if they do anything else in life other than just do SABS work, because it seems to be so much and they just don't stop. They don't take any holidays, they just keep working on. His dedication is amazing. His direction, the partnerships he seeks, the projects he takes on. Let's welcome my big brother, Shabir Beg OBE, to the podium.
Before I formally speak, if I can maybe tell you what I've done earlier this evening before I came here. It's not easy to do the work of a charity. It's very, very difficult. But it's not difficult for the Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society, because we've got so many friends who support us, and a massive platform has been made for us. So life's quite easy for us. Now, this is a wee book. You'll find it on the table. Before I came here, and I'm still not at the formal bit, I'm still doing my wee personal bit, as I went to St Andrew's Cathedral, and there lies my friend, God rest his soul, Archbishop Mario Conte. So I asked Archbishop Nolan, who's away, if I had permission to go to the crypt and let Archbishop Conte know that I'm on my way to the Trades House and I'm going to miss him. So Father Mackenzie, Bishop, opened up the crypt. So I spent a good bit of time this afternoon in the crypt. I thought I couldn't handle it, but you know what, I handled it well. I handled it well. And then what actually happened was the place actually lit up, because there lay the hierarchy of the Catholic Church of Scotland. The Archbishop Tartaglia was there, Cardinal Winning was there. There were so many, and I had a chance to talk to them all before I came here. So I feel quite privileged to be able to build on the simple friendships at work. And then when I was leaving, I saw this wee book, and I said to Father Mackenzie, I said, can I take one? He goes, you want to take a box? So I said, aye, I'll take a box. So that's why they're all there. Feel free to take one. But then when I opened it up, the first picture you see is actually Archbishop Conte, God rest his soul. And he was so great to me. And I love him and I miss him. And that's my wee personal bit. The other wee personal bit, before I say thanks to everybody, is a couple of Eids ago, just after COVID, we put this out as a why don't you come and stand beside me, son? Come on. I tell you, come on. He made this logo. It's 100 logos of different people who we engage with, and they all gave us permission to put their logos on this, and we thanked the NHS for the work they've done through COVID, and that's it there. So I knew my friend Mary was going to be here, so I just printed it off. But what we're going to do is we'll maybe get one of the youngsters to go around and everybody can sign it in the back and give it to Mary as a wee memento, and everybody here. There's 100 logos there. This will be nearly 200 signatures. So that's something. Lord Lyne, one of the greatest achievements ever made by a Muslim charity organisation was the day we got granted our coat of arms. And that was done through the love and affection of the Lord Lyne there. We met, and he actually suggested to me that you should get your coat of arms. because I've never heard of a coat of arms, and in actual fact I'm not sure how I can engage with yourself. And he then suggested the coat of arms. Now, the Lord Lyon just said there that it's okay signing a lot of things, and it's good we did sign a lot of things, but I think it's now important for the practical stuff to be done. And just before I start the formal bit, because I know we're getting late, there's something very special about our coat of arms. The honours of Scotland were given to His Majesty King Charles. Long may he reign over us, I pay tribute to him. But one of our coat of arms is a sword, and it's called Zulufkar. And Lord Lyon, at the next meeting, that's what I'm going to request you, that we would like a sword made in Scotland that says Ali ibn Abi Talib. And that's the sword we want, the same shape, the same everything, and that's going to be Scottish. Scotland at its best when that wee sword, or big sword, I don't know, gets made, but it's something we should endeavour to do. Distinguished friends, and now it's a great honour for me to come to the conclusion and give a vote of thanks. But to give a vote of thanks, one has to appreciate who we are and what we are as an organisation and what we're achieving. What we have achieved due to the good friendship here of everyone is phenomenal from a Shia perspective, because there's nowhere in the world where a Shia organisation is equal in its society, because we are a minority within a minority and we are persecuted, but we're certainly not persecuted here in Scotland with equals, and I think that's quite important. It'd be very important for me to now quickly just acknowledge where the platform starts. The platform actually starts way back in Celtic Park. That's when we first came across yourself, Moderator. You were speaking at that particular event where we had at Celtic Park introducing the Shia community of Scotland. And you're thankful to that now today. You're the Moderator. Also at that meeting, spoke Brigadier Paul Hartness. Brigadier, can you stand up a wee minute, please? Brigadier Paul Hartness was he was the Commander-in-Chief, or the Commander of the British Army, and he really took us on board. Also, the reason why we're here at this stage is Dr. Idris Jones, in my bit of wisdom, thinking he was from the Church of Scotland, and just rattled on about the General Assembly, thinking I knew everything, until he told me that I'm actually the Emeritus Bishop of Glasgow and Galloway from the Scottish Episcopal Church. And I didn't know what you meant, because I'd never heard of the Scottish Episcopal Church. So I thank you, Dr. Idris, and what you played on our foundations. Cedric's here, and he is also a great advocate for how we are today. We're very grateful. Politically, we engaged in John Docherty along with Bill Kidd. They were our political mentors, and we done events in the Parliament, so all that took place. But today, if we fast forward to today, the next stepping stone was in Edinburgh, with Donald and Frank, and also our former Provost Eva. They played a big part in our dinners, and they worked together and they encouraged us to do events together. And the nucleus of our engagement is actually with the NHS. And this is why I wanted to just say something right at the end. I probably forgot a lot of things to say, but time's getting on. But what I would like to say to Mary Morgan. Mary, will you please stand up, because this is the Chief Executive of Scotland, and through her support, when she was the Director of the Scottish National Blood Transfusion Service, we've been able to journey with her up until this day. She's actually introduced us to Tom McLaren. Where's Tom? Tom's here already, is over there. Now, Tom's quite an important person for us to see. He is working on the strategic plan, performance and transformation of what services the NHS is going to give in the future. And that's the guy that everybody here should actually talk to, meet up with, have their own private talks, and I think that will work. To finish off, I have to fast forward to now. I'm very grateful to the Church of Scotland, all the support we've had there. We've had a few bits ups and downs with the moderator last year because he supports Partick Thistle, I support the Rangers. So we had a bits of differences, but we got through it. Now there's a lot of organisations here whom my colleagues haven't met. Generations working together, Glasgow Golden Generation, to name a few. Abdul Bassani from the Afghan United. There's so many. There's also here Craig Vickery. Where's Craig? Oh, Craig's over there. He's the Chief Executive of the Merchants House. So I would very strongly recommend some of the charities here to corner Craig and corner Bruce, because they're the guys who can possibly give you grants for the charity work that you do. So I think that's quite important. Fiona, is so much of a big journey ahead, because Amid talked about the pilgrimage. We're now at a stage in which our banner, the big red banner that was gifted to us from the Holy Land, we've been speaking, and we're going to speak to the 5 presbyteries that are from west to east, and do a peace walk in which Amid, along with other members of our community, is going to do the walk. Everybody's up for it. The Church of Scotland's up for it. Archbishop Cushley's up for it. The Primus is up for it, provided we do something in Inverness as well, which we will do. And we'll also do something in Fife. Now, I'm now going to say thank you to everyone. I've probably forgotten some. Alison, I just remembered yourself. Alison's a new colleague of ours as well. Her charity is very, very important, and I think she's wearing, stand up so people can see you. Definitely talk to Alison, and definitely talk to Lynn Campbell over there. Lynn, stand up, people, because we want people to talk to you. These are the organisations that are helping the cost of living crisis that's happening in the country. They're on the front line. They're on the front line, and that's who we have to support. So I think the talking's over now, and we really need to get the practical bit done, in which we change the complexion of our country and try and get it prosperous again. So I'm grateful to everyone. I see Chris there, and there's a big project going on just now, and I'm sure Chris won't mind me mentioning it. The weekly group. The weekly group has got over 90,000 houses in Scotland, and they're doing pantries, and it's nothing to do, it's nothing political, it's just a nice wee touch to help people in their flats where they can get a wee bit of food at the right price, and they can go and help people. So SABS is going to be involved. They've invited us on to the steering group, so we're going to be doing that. But finally, Vivian's going to be the main player for the Scottish Ahlul Bayt Society to engage with, because if we can engage with the Cross House, then we can bring every single organisation in this room together and work for the betterment of Scottish society. So that's the plan. It's a simple plan, it's doable, and I thank each and every one here, people from our own colleagues, there's Azhar, there's Ali Abbas, there's Amid, the young guys, I see my pals, I'm getting a dirty look from Brian. Brian, stand up. Brian's actually spoke. Brian has actually created a method in which we could eradicate food poverty in such a way that it's going to be a dignified manner in which people will receive help. I daren't say any more about the fact that that's work in progress in SABS, and a lot of people here are actually working on that. It's massive, the programme. Let's hope we can pull it off. I think he's been speaking to quite a lot of people. I'm running out of time, and I thank Robert Marshall for coming today. But before I finish, my gratefulness to Interfaith Scotland, Edinburgh Interfaith and Glasgow Interfaith, to Acharya-ji from the Hindu community, to my sister, the Reverend from the Sikh community, from everyone here. And Amar, you stand up as well for a wee minute. Amar's come all the way from London. They're well connected in Iraq and Babylon, and the Sheikh is organising that if ever we ever do any signing, we shouldn't do it in Scotland. We should take the Scots over to Iraq and sort out some of the good work that we're doing here and showcase it there. So I hope, Amar, you can do that. Finally, I would like to thank Manaz. She's a familiar. Where's Manaz? Anyway, there she is. Manaz has come all the way from Florida to support us, and we're grateful for that. So thank you very much, and please enjoy your food. And please, Scotland, Tim Mears, we look forward to engaging with you there. We look forward to engaging with everybody. And by the way, Connell, I haven't forgotten you. Connell and Jordan are doing phenomenal work with the FIT programme that the SPFL Trust is for fitness. And as a wee shout out, not just to Connell and Jordan from a Rangers perspective, but there's 42 clubs in Scotland and a lot of them doing it. So thank you very much for supporting us, and I hope to see you again next year.
Thank you for that, Shabir. It's always a great charm when you agree to listen and share his stories, and he's got plenty of them. But that's us concluded for this evening.